First story. I overheard my daughter calling her friend lame for not attending her birthday party. So I canceled my daughter's birthday and forced her to call all her friends, apologizing for being a mean girl. Now her friends' parents are saying I'm being too harsh and trying to teach me how to parent my own kids. Here is the situation. My daughter Abby just turned 11 and was supposed to have a birthday party last month with the girls in her class. She is autistic and has ADHD that we haven't found the right treatment for, so she struggles to make friends. And this would have been the first non-family party she has had. In the last few months, Abby went to 2 other birthday parties where the whole class was invited, which is why she asked to have a larger friend party this year in our backyard. Unfortunately, because of the timing, Taylor, her best friend, wouldn't be able to make it because her family was out of town. The day before the party, I was letting Abby use my phone to give her classmates the time and location information, and I overheard this exchange. Other girl: is Taylor going to be there? Abby: no, she's lame and can't come. I sternly told Abby to hang up and explain herself. She tried to tell me that she wasn't serious, but I thought it was incredibly mean to call her only friend lame and felt like she was behaving horribly. She insisted that it was just a joke and wouldn't agree when I told her that Taylor would be heartbroken if she heard Abby call her lame. I felt that she didn't deserve to have a party if she couldn't cherish her friend, and I decided to teach her a lesson. I made her call all 12 girls that were invited, including the ones she had already called, to tell the information and explain to them that there wasn't going to be a party after all because she was being punished for saying something rude about Taylor. She was appropriately embarrassed and cried a lot, and I think she definitely learned her lesson. So I felt like this was done and dusted. But Taylor came over last weekend for a sleepover, and I talked to her mom for a bit at drop-off. She told me she heard about what happened because the other parents had been discussing my punishment and thought it was too harsh, and she insinuated I should go easier on Abby because she was a sweet and sensitive kid. I wasn't expecting this, so I brushed it off until she left, but got annoyed that other parents are judging me for my actions when my kid did something that was not sweet or sensitive. When Taylor's mother returned to pick her daughter up, she again laid it on thick how much Taylor liked Abby and how she was glad they were friends, and I said, yep, and now Abby knows to treat her friends well and not to take them for granted. It got awkward when Taylor's mom kept gushing about Abby and low-key implying that she didn't deserve to be punished, and I snapped back. Well, I guess you and everyone else know how to parent better than I do. I am still thinking over this and want to know if my actions with Abby and with Taylor's mom were warranted, because I feel like everyone else is taking crazy pills. Edit. I have said in multiple DMs, but I will say here as well that I was wrong, and I am disgusted with myself. I will clear up that Abby does go to weekly therapy, but we haven't seen a psychologist or done family therapy since she was 8. I was also suspected of having a DD as a child, but my parents didn't do much to investigate after one type of medication failed to help, so I don't think about it that much and don't know if that's relevant. I sat with Abby after supper and apologized for my actions and enforced that she is a good kid and a great friend to Taylor. She started tearing up and told me she was hurt that the other girl asked about Taylor, because apparently some kids had said they wouldn't go since Taylor wasn't. Abby felt guilty because, while she was just joking about Taylor being lame, she was hurt that they liked Taylor and not her. I hadn't even considered this, and I'm heartbroken for her that I kicked her when she was down. She is a sweet and sensitive girl, and I'm very lucky she forgives me. I will be looking into family therapy and connecting with the school to fix this, and I told Abby she has a week to decide how and with whom she wants to celebrate a belated birthday. Thanks to everyone who advocated for my daughter when I failed her. Update. 3 days later. I won't put this on AITA because I'm sure it doesn't fit the update requirements, but I am still getting messages and people reaching out over this post, some quite violently, others just hurting and lashing out, which I can understand. Hopefully this gives more light to the situation and gives you all the conclusions you're looking for. When I posted this, I did not expect for it to get more than 50 comments. So when it did, I was blown away and honestly overwhelmed. Some people called this story out or being fake, and the funny thing is that it kind of was and wasn't. I'm Abby, fake name, not Abby's mom, and the day I posted this story, I had been thinking about some not so cool experiences from my childhood and was kind of ruminating on this one. This was maybe the second time I remember being traumatized by my mom, but the first one I remember all the details clearly. I was pretty sure she effed up doing this, but all parents F up their kids sometimes, right? And I had said something mean about my friend, though I don't remember if I said Taylor sucked or was lame, so from her perspective, I deserved to be punished. The way I typed the story was exactly what happened, right down to her making me call every girl in my class. I still remember the script I had to read. "Hi, friend's name. I'm calling to tell you that I'm not allowed to have a birthday party because I said something mean about a friend. Sorry. Bye." And after every call, I put my head on the table and wept, full of snot rockets and everything, while my mom typed the next number into the phone and put it in my hand. It has been over 10 years to keep timing vague, and I still hate my birthday and have never had a successful friend party. I do have friends. I just can't do parties. Lol. The only part of the public story that wasn't true was the updates. The catharsis I felt through people agreeing with me was great. But everyone saying schedule her another party or apologize to her right now made me a little sad, because my mom literally never brought it up again. So I tried to get some sense of peace from the whole ordeal by pretending she did the right thing. And it honestly worked in the sense that I can think of that day without crying. So anyways, I posted the story seeking validation or therapy, or at least trying to gain perspective from her side. And I'm sorry to have misled the 1.6 million people who saw this post and the people who read it on Facebook and Instagram, I think. I was floored by the amount of people who understood me, a weird little girl they had never met, more than my own mother ever did. You understood that I was mirroring my peers, having a really hard time making friends, and hurt that no matter how hard I tried, people just didn't like me. I cried so many times writing the original post and answering comments as Abby's mom parroting things she said back then or things I've heard her say now when she remembers my childhood. She was twisted and abusive, no matter how much she claimed she was trying to help me. And a special sorry to the people who messaged me with long personal stories or advice. I was really moved that you would share something so raw in an attempt to get some ignorant mom to understand. I was so grateful that there were professionals out there willing to put aside time to help kids they had never met. I tried to answer so you wouldn't feel like your effort was wasted, but I felt and feel horrible about lying, and it was resting heavy on my heart. Damn my autistic need to abide by the rule system. Anyways, lots of people also messaged worried about Abby's well-being, so I wanted to say, I am doing fine. I did move out of my parents' house as soon as I could, went to university, and graduated with a degree in something I love. I am finally medicated for ADHD, and I am engaged to the kindest, most understanding man who is fiercely protective of me when it comes to my mom. I still need therapy, but I promise I'm working on it, and my next attempt will not involve lying on the internet, because, holy SHT, did this get out of control? Second story. Wife favoring our adoptive son due to his trauma, neglecting our biological sons, so I refused to pick his movie on movie night, favoring my biological sons. Now the adopted son said my family never loved him and stormed off while my wife lashed out at me. Am I wrong for not allowing my adopted son to choose the movie on family movie night? I 45M have 4 sons, 3 biological 17M, 15M, 12M, and 1 adopted 13M. We adopted Jake when he was 3 years old. He came from a really difficult background, and we've always tried to give him as much love and support as possible. But if I'm being honest, it hasn't been easy. Jake has always been more of a challenge compared to my other boys. He's extremely sensitive and gets upset over the smallest things. Due to the trauma he experienced early on, Jake is mentally and emotionally more like an 8 or 9-year-old, even though he's 13. This isn't because of any special needs. It's just the result of what he's been through. When he was younger, he struggled a lot in school, to the point where he was eventually expelled from his primary school for behavioral issues. It was a really tough time for our family. We ended up enrolling him in a SEM social, emotional, and mental health school, which costs around £70,000 per year. While the school has helped him somewhat, Jake still causes a lot of problems. The school often calls us because Jake's had a meltdown or couldn't handle something, and it's clear he needs a lot more attention than our other kids. At home, Jake's neediness can be overwhelming. He's constantly seeking reassurance and gets upset if things don't go exactly his way. My wife has always been very patient with him, maybe too patient, in my opinion. She tends to cater to his needs a lot more than the other boys, and I can see it starting to wear on them. I can tell they're starting to feel like Jake gets special treatment. Earlier today, during our usual Saturday family movie night, this issue came to a head. We always vote on the movie to keep things fair. The older boys and I wanted to watch the first Avengers movie. When we voted, Jake was the only one who wanted to watch Spider-Man instead. Jake loves Spider-Verse, and we've watched it several times before. Seeing how upset Jake was getting, my wife suggested that we just watch Spider-Verse to avoid a meltdown. She felt it wasn't worth the fight and wanted to keep the peace, especially considering how sensitive Jake is. but I felt like it wasn't fair to the other boys who had won the vote fairly. I said no, we're sticking to the movie that won the vote. Jake, predictably, got really upset, stormed off to his room, and refused to come back downstairs. After the movie, my wife and I had a huge argument. She said I was being too harsh and that I don't understand how difficult things are for Jake because of his past. She thinks I should have just let him have his way to avoid the conflict. But I'm tired of walking on eggshells and constantly giving in to Jake at the expense of the other boys. I don't think it's right to let Jake dictate everything just because he's more sensitive. AITA for not letting my adopted son choose the movie on family movie night, even though it upset him and led to a huge argument with my wife. Relevant comments. Old_beach 2325. NTA, it's okay to give in. But if you always give in, Jake learns nothing. And your other 3 boys will feel neglected. Kale cannot always have his way. And at the mental age of 8 or 9, he needs to learn that and find coping skills to help manage his emotions. Your wife will do him no favors, but always give in since eventually he'll be an adult, and no one except her will treat him that way. Horror_adds 7540. You can't let Jake make all the decisions in the house. On the other hand, a vote seems fair, but it really isn't. If there's a majority whose tastes are in sync, they win the vote every time. A better system would be to rotate who gets to pick the movie. That makes the decision predictable, and no one thinks they are being picked on for being different. No_introduction_18284. Suggestion. Kill the vote and rotate through each kid to pick the movie. Parents must be in agreement to veto the movie. That is, if one agrees and the other disagrees, the movie stays as is. If both parents agree that the movie is not appropriate for that night, the kid gets to pick a different movie. Place. I know you've got him enrolled in the fancy private school, but are you guys working with a family therapist? Because if not, it sounds like you really need one. You've got to figure out a way to support Jake while helping him learn to tolerate frustration and not getting his way. If he doesn't learn that, he's going to have a terribly lonely, limited life. It sounds like you aren't working with a therapist yet, which means that between you and your wife, Ash, all of your kids need support. And Jake needs structure and balance, not coddling. OP-348 downvotes. It really isn't a fancy independent school. It's honestly just like a normal school, but they have a ratio of like 3 teachers per child or something crazy like that. I mean, it is a bit more than a normal state school, but it isn't like a hugely fancy place. He has therapy throughout CAMS, and is on the waiting list for specialized therapy to support adoptive children. But we can't afford family therapy. That would be great, but that's not something we'd be able to do. We can barely afford rent. LM Montes. Info. Is Jake often outvoted? Do you ever take turns to ensure everyone gets to choose? Or each month someone puts in a movie choice into a hat, then picks one out each week until all have been watched? OP. I wouldn't say he's often outvoted. Like I said in the post, he's chosen for us to watch Spider-Verse many times in the past, and we have all watched it together. I would say it's usually pretty equal with the movie nights, and usually no one is completely upset as they all have pretty similar tastes in films, even if something wasn't their first choice. OP. Oh, to be clear, he does have therapy. He has it both through CAMS and through his school. You said we were going to family therapy, which is what I was referring to. And also, I thought I mentioned this, but I just read through and I didn't. We don't pay for his school because he's a former LAC and has an AIP. The LA pays the school directly. There is no way in God's green earth we'd be able to afford $70,000 per year. Update. Hi all. This is an update to a post I made about 4 months ago. For full context, you might want to check out the original post. After reading through your comments and taking some time to reflect, I came to realize I've been too harsh on Jake, not just regarding the movie night incident, but in general. Jake has had a difficult journey since he joined our family, but that's not his fault. When we chose to adopt him, we committed to supporting him through every challenge. He didn't choose his trauma, and he certainly didn't choose to end up in a family where he might feel different from his siblings. That responsibility lies with us. We've made a few changes, starting with family movie night. Instead of voting, which often left Jake feeling excluded, we've switched to a rota where each person takes a turn picking the movie. This simple change has removed a lot of the tension and has made movie night feel more inclusive for everyone. I honestly can't believe I didn't think of it sooner. Thank you to everyone who suggested it. In hindsight, I realize my original post felt more like a venting session, and I regret the way I spoke about Jake. I needed to get those feelings out, but now I understand it wasn't fair to talk about him in that way. even anonymously. Since then, I've started journaling to work through my emotions privately and with a clearer head. I'm really grateful for the wake-up call your comments provided. One point raised repeatedly in the comments was the glass child concept, the idea that our other boys might feel overlooked because of Jake's needs. That really hit home for me. To address this, we've started a new Sunday tradition. Each Sunday, I take one of our boys out for a full day, just the two of us, doing something he chooses. It's been great for all of us and has given me precious one-on-one time with each of my sons. My relationship with them feels stronger, and it's something I look forward to every week. Jake and I also had a long heart-to-heart after my original post. He opened up about feeling like his opinions and wants don't matter, and that he sometimes believes I love my other boys more. Hearing that broke my heart, and I took responsibility for my role in making him feel this way. His early trauma definitely impacts his sense of security, but I can't ignore that my own behavior contributed as well. I'm committed to showing him that he's just as valued and loved as his brothers. Finally, some people asked about therapy. Jake's been on the waiting list for a more specialized therapist for a while now, before I made the original post. In the meantime, he does receive some therapy through his school and general therapy through CAMS, which helps. But we know he'll benefit much more once he has consistent access to a trauma-informed therapist. We're hopeful this will come through soon. Thanks again to everyone who shared insights and advice. These changes have made a huge difference in our family's dynamics, and I feel closer to all my sons. I'm working every day to be a better parent to Jake and a more balanced dad for all our kids. Third story. My wife refused to allow me to see the birth of my baby. I'm heartbroken, but Reddit thinks I'm the arsehole. My wife is 8 months pregnant with our first kid, and she has been finalizing her birth plan. She included me in the process, and I did my best to research and understand it. I went with her to see various doulas, picked a hospital together, established emergency plans, etc. I assumed I would be there for the birth, but she told me she didn't want me to see my daughter being born. She only wants her mother there, and I could only come in once it's done to see the baby. It hurt like hell because I was obviously very excited about it. I asked why, and she just said she'd be more comfortable that way. I said okay. I told her I'd let her do whatever makes her comfortable, and I'd be on board with it, but that I'm very hurt and will need some space for a few days to take it in. I slept in the guest room and left before she woke up for work. And she's been blowing up my phone with texts about how it's unfair to punish her for doing what's best for the baby. She called, and she was crying and telling me I'm putting so much stress on a pregnant woman for no reason, and that I'm an arsehole for that. I don't think needing space for a few days is wrong of me, and I'm just asking her to let me take in what's happening. I can't pretend to be happy about missing the birth of our baby. She's so angry, I'm wondering if I'm being a DCK. Edit. No COVID restrictions for us. Edit 2. No, we're not the couple from the other post. My wife works from home. I don't work 14 hours. And I was there for every appointment since the beginning. Relevant comments. Childbearing is scary, so she gets to decide. And if he's giving her the silent treatment, shame on him. I understand that, and I'm in no way trying to change her mind. And I'm not trying to hurt her, punish her, or give her the silent treatment. I believe space to be minimal communication, and I need that. I don't really want to sit there and do everyday small talk with her, while all I'm thinking about is this. I need a few days to move on, and then go back to the old routine. I'm not doing this to change her mind. I'm doing this to not resent her for her choice. I just want to be on my own and handle my feelings about it on my own, without her seeing me feeling down about it. People accuse him of being passive-aggressive and/or abandoning her, some really playing into the men shouldn't have feelings stereotype. I'm not being passive-aggressive at all, but I do need a few days of seeing and talking to each other as little as possible. That is what space is to me. I truly don't understand how it is identical to being passively aggressive. I talked about it with her, and she said take your time. I told her I wanted to be on my own for a few days, just to accept that I wouldn't get to see my first child being born. And then once I accepted it, I'd be on board with whatever she wants. I just want a few days to myself. I understand how it will be hard and put pressure on us, but I don't know what more to talk about. She made up her mind. I told her how I felt about it, and she heard me. I don't want to try to change her mind or anything, and I understand how truly vulnerable she will be. But I don't want to hide how it feels either. If I sit with her and make us dinner and have regular conversations, it won't be genuine. It will entirely be an act, and knowing myself, I'll resent her when I truly don't want that. I understand that, and I'm in no way trying to change her mind. And I'm not trying to hurt her, punish her, or give her the silent treatment. I believe space to be minimal communication, and I need that. I don't really want to sit there and do everyday small talk with her while all I'm thinking about is this. I need a few days to move on, and then go back to the old routine. I never thought this would count as weaponized feelings. I just don't understand how she, you, and other people here expect me to keep my feelings to myself and put on a facade that everything is well and fine. Yes, this is how I react to anger. If we're arguing, I refuse to be the couple that yells at each other. So if I feel too angry, I take a step back. I go into another room for a bit and cool off, and then come back and talk calmly. However, this time, she made it clear she doesn't want to elaborate, so all that's left to do is move on. To move on, I need space away from her to let go of my feelings. And yes, I want a couple days. My feelings right now matter to me more, because I don't think there is any productive discussion to be had. And we all just need to move on. Apparently some people think he should force her to tell him why. I feel like that is mischaracterizing what not pushing her more is. We can always get to why later. But after asking a couple times why and her not giving me a clear answer, I wasn't going to sit there and ask why 1,000 times. She doesn't want to talk about it, and that's okay. I guess you and I have different ways of handling things. I don't believe in forcing communication. She's entitled to not want to discuss her fears and feelings with me, and only do so on her time. If it makes us immature, so be it. But I won't sit there and force my wife to talk about something. Is he usually emotionally supportive of his wife? I generally am. Yes, I do my best to be. I have asked myself that. But I won't ask her not until the baby is born, and this is behind us. I am also learning through this post that space has a different meaning than I thought. To me, it's being alone, consequently not being around each other and not talking to each other. He just needs to screw it up. And it doesn't matter if he can't be there. I don't agree that wanting to be there is entitled. I respect her decision, and she made her choice. But wanting to be there for your child's first breath isn't entitled. And I do care about her more than the baby and want to be there in case anything happens. And now I have to deal with being outside in the dark about how things are going. If the worst case scenario of my wife dying happens, I also want to be there. To say goodbye and be there for her. Why are you acting like being alone in death would be better? I accept your judgment, but I am absolutely baffled by how many people here don't understand why I want to be there. It's our first child, and there is so much more to it than the gruesome parts of childbirth. It's not a child, it's our child. The child we tried for, prepped for, is our family. I understand it's her decision, but I don't want to be there to eat popcorn and watch. I want to be there for her, our baby, and to be able to share this moment as a family. Is it that hard to imagine why a dad would want to be there and why it would hurt to be excluded? I just want to clarify that my loss of faith isn't about not being there for the birth. It's about how she hasn't allowed me to react to her decision, and, like many people here, has flat out told me she expected me to deal with my feelings and process them on my own, hidden from her, while acting like nothing happened when I'm around her or supposed to be around her. OP is voted NTA. Update in comments. I talked to my wife and explained that I understand she's feeling abandoned, but if she kept pushing me to pretend everything is okay before I'm ready without explaining her reasons to me, I'll resent her, and neither of us wants that. It caused lots of crying, and she did apologize for not telling me her actual reasons. Still didn't want to tell me. We're mostly good now. She gets upset when I bring up the subject, but we're doing better. She's 34 weeks this week, so we're trying to focus on the last-minute things before the birth. Update. Editor's note. He writes these as Update 1 and Update 2, but all of this was posted on January 13th. Thank you all for your input and advice. Update 1. My wife had the baby, and they're both healthy. I asked her on her due date if she still didn't want me to be there, and she said she wasn't sure. She was very stressed during labor, and I could tell she was really anxious, so I did my best to comfort her and didn't ask. She did ask me to leave when it was time to push, and I came back when our daughter was born. I didn't catch her, but I got to cut the cord, and I held her first, which I am very grateful for. Things were okay with my wife for a while, until she dismissed how I felt about missing the birth, and said I was making a big deal out of a couple minutes. I then found out the reason she excluded me was because she was scared I would stop being attracted to her. I kind of lost it and I regret it. But I was sleep deprived and told her that I was disappointed in her as a mother, and she put her vanity before our kid and before me. My wife then asked for marriage counseling. We're on a wait list for a first appointment. We've been very cold towards one another when we're alone. and we will probably fight soon again. I know it's not the best way to be when we have a newborn, but I can't help but blame her for this situation. I will be going back to work soon, so I'm hoping the distance work gives me from her will help me calm down and gather the strength to be more mature about it all. Update 2. My wife and I separated for a couple months, but decided to work on our marriage. Bigger issues rose to the surface in marriage counseling, and my wife did apologize for keeping me out of the delivery room. Although she affirmed in the same sentence that if we have a second child, she'd ask me to stay outside again. She just will not trust me to not lose attraction to her. I had never realized just how deeply insecure she is about her looks and how it affects every part of her daily life. She's a pretty woman, and she always acted very confident, but it was mostly a facade that completely crumbled with the pregnancy. We ran into some issues with breastfeeding related to that, where she would eat very little to lose the pregnancy weight, and it caused her to produce less milk, consequently stressing her and the baby out more. I begged her to postpone her diet until our baby is a little older, but it was so important for her to lose weight first. I tried supporting her, but I was going through my own struggles, and I couldn't understand how she could put that over the health of our baby. We're determined to make our marriage work, and I'm going to do my best to understand her struggles with self-image. I've come to accept that seeing the birth of any child I have with her will not be possible. Relevant comments. Formula is a thing. She wanted to breastfeed. We've had to supplement her milk with formula, and the baby is doing well. Some more comments from OP about why he is against her dieting now. I think it is wrong. I understand she wants to diet again, but our baby is not old enough. We had agreed for 6 months of breastfeeding, and I'd have understood if her reasons were different. But vanity just doesn't take priority over our child in my eyes. She also didn't just stop breastfeeding. She stopped eating and didn't tell me or supplement her milk until the baby was crying nonstop and losing weight. It's just irresponsible. She's too little, and it's unfair to put her through this because my wife wants to lose 10 pounds. Therapy. I said baby is doing great now. She's in therapy. I just don't agree working on her body image issues is worth not breastfeeding. She also thinks so, and I'm not forcing her to. She chose to by her own volition. Why stay in the marriage? And a nasty comment about the wife. I want my girl to have a stable family, and I don't think my wife did any of this out of malice. These are the 2 reasons who keep me in the marriage. We're trying to work on other things and hopefully find a semblance of a team together. She has body image issues, maybe disordered eating issues. She's not insane or incapable. Sorry, but I'm going to start ignoring your comments. You seem to swing from one extreme to another. I don't think depriving my girl of her mother would do any of them any good. Yes, my wife has issues with her body image and made choices I really disapprove of, but she doesn't deserve to have our baby taken from her. There is a lot of talk about how divorce is often better for the child than parents who don't get along and stay married. OP says he's not there yet and also talks about his childhood. And the divorce of mine parents was the worst, so I'll go with my lived experience. It's obviously not the best, but it's the best of the worst to me. I know. Don't just stay together to stay together. The goal is to stay together and work together to be stable. People accuse him of playing the victim, and it was her decision. And he should just be happy wife and baby are healthy. I haven't been playing victim. I've been hurt, and I'm allowed to be. I'm allowed to think of my girl's birth as a special moment and a huge life milestone that my wife chose to exclude me from. She had the right to, but I was excluded from it. Why are you so bothered by that specific moment, meaning a lot to me? It did mean a lot, and while I got to participate in some of it, I wasn't welcomed for what meant the most to me. I never blamed her until she dismissed me. I don't think it's fair for me to act like it's no big deal to spare her from feeling bad. It was a big deal enough to still bother me, and that isn't something I can just snap my fingers and change. I never made her uncomfortable. I left and followed all her wishes. I guess it was my selfish wish that did. I can't make that not impact me. Sure, and that's why I left. Nonetheless, it hurt me that she couldn't trust me enough to let me be a part of it. I didn't beg or bother her to change her mind. I simply asked her to let me be hurt and let me get over it on my own, and she never let me feel bad about it. She liked the commenter I replied to boiled it down to, I made this decision, and you have no right to feel hurt by it because it's my decision, which was very detrimental to my trust in her. She's not evil. This is an exaggeration by Reddit, and I don't think she did it to hurt me or exclude me intentionally. I was hurt by the lack of trust in me, and since the birth I've seen her and helped in very unflattering situations, So to learn that she thinks birth will traumatize me was just a huge blow for me. It broke the way I saw our marriage, and it just hurt. I know it would have been best if I just sucked it up and pretended it was fine, but I couldn't. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.